special New York Sire Stake edition of the Stretch Drive. Alongside me, Mike Anderson, and to my right, we have our first special guest of the season, Joe Zambito, Racing Secretary, voice of Western New York, announcer at Batavia Downs, Director of Racing at Pompano Park, USTA Board of Directors, District 6. Anything else you do?
Coach a little football.
You do coach a little football. Class D Coach of the Year. I will put that in there too. So you do it all. Thank you for joining us.
Great to be here.
New York Sire Stakes edition of the Stretch Drive. You could join us at thestretchdrive.blogspot.com. We're also on Twitter at Stretch Driving. Don't forget, check out Zambistros in Medina, Main Street. Fantastic meal. It's the proud sponsor of the Stretch Drive. Unc, Zambistros, your thoughts?
Lobster pasta.
Fantastic. Moving on, let's get to the picks. New York Sire Stakes, 4 o'clock post, Vernon Downs. I can't wait. I love action. You like action?
Sire Stakes action.
Action.
Gotta love Sire Stakes.
Gotta love Sire Stakes. Okay, we're going to start in race 2. It will start at pick 3. This is Excelsior A event. The purse is $15,000. My top pick in here is the 6 Soundtrack for Vernon Yoder. He trains and drives. This guy's trotters are very fast. He has them ready. They usually stay safe on the track. They don't make too many mistakes. Qualified at Tioga 57 last quarter and 28-3. I like this one to pick up some pieces late and get the win. For second, I went to the 2 Conquest as Jason Bartlett drives for Annette Lorenzen. For third, I went to the 4 Mid-Chapter for Dan Daly. This one on the home track at Vernon Downs. He'll be aggressive early with this one. My question mark in here is the 3 The Boogeyman. Tony Cifatelli trains for Scott Zeron. This horse has a nice qualifier at Saratoga in 2-1. I think he might be a factor in here at a price. But in race 2, I did end up going on the 6 Soundtrack over the 2 Conquest as and the 4 Mid-Chapter.
Joe, who do you like?
Well, the horse to beat is definitely the 2 Conquest Os. Chose trotting at 57-3 last year at Yonkers, made 29,000 plus. Jason Bartlett driving. We all know Jason is one of the top bramesmen in the country. I think you have to use 3 in the pick 3 in no particular order. I like the 2. I like the 3 The Boogeyman, the horse you talked about. Qualifying in 2-1 at Saratoga. That's a 57-mile probably at Vernon Downs. And that's with Tony Cifatelli driving. Now we get Scotty Z. I think that's going to be the difference maker in the 6 Soundtrack. Vernon Yoder, who trains all winter long up in North Florida, has some nice trotters. So I think you have to use the 2, who is the obvious choice, with the 3 and the 6. Mike?
I went to the 2 as well, Conquest as, getting Jason Bartlett. Just like you said, nice mile at Yonkers, 57-3 last year. I like that horse on top. I went to the 4 Mid-Chapter with Dan Daly for second. Home track. Second time Lasix on this horse. I think that'll be a factor. And to round out the trifecta, I went with Soundtrack. Vernon Yoder always has some nice trotters and puts them in play.
Okay, now we're going to move on to race 4. It's another Excelsior A, going for $15,000. This one I went to the 4 Double Dealing. George Ducharme trained Scotty Z in the bike. This one was the easiest kind of winner in his debut for the season out of the Ducharme stable, winning 157-1. Howard Parker was in the bike that day. Scotty Z drives tonight. I like this one on top. For second, I went to the 3 All Rise, going from Homer Hostetler to Tyler Buter. I think that's a big driver change. I think he will be a main factor in here. For third, I went to the 3 Linger Hanover. The Schnitker barn has been on fire to start the season. Mark McDonald drives. And for fourth, I went to the 1 Breezing Prayer. Dennis Laterza and Jason Bartlett. I think they suck along and pick up the pieces for the Super. So in race 4, I went 4, 3, 6, 1. Joe?
As far as the pick 3 goes, I think you have to use 3 horses, and I think you nailed all 3 of them. But some big things to notice, like you said, big driver change on the 3 All Rise to Tyler Buter. The 4 Double Dealing goes from Howard Parker, who is definitely a great driver. But the youngster, 31-year-old Scotty Zeron, should pick this one up. The horse I like to win, though, is 6-1 on the morning line, and that's a 6 Linger Hanover. Ray Schnitker, grandfather, by the way, to Connor McWilliams, one of our football players, trains this guy, and I love that race at Goshen on May 16th, qualified in 59-3, then came back to qualify in 55-3 at the Meadowlands. I just think Linger Hanover with Mark Mack is probably going to be a nice price and gets my circle in this race. So I'm going 6, 3, 4 for the Super. I'd hit the all button for 4th and should grab you the Super.
I went to the 4 double dealing on top for all the reasons Joe said, getting Scotty Z. For 2nd, I went to All Rise, getting Tyler Buter. He did drive this horse before, so he's familiar with the trotter. For 3rd, I did go also to Linger, Hanover, Schnitker, Mark McDonald, deadly combination. And to round out the Super, I went to the 2 clear sailing, Dan Daly.
Moving on to race 5, we got an Excelsior B event, 6,800 on the line for this one. I went to the 4 Hall Press, again, George Ducharme, Scotty Z. This one made a break in his opener, still closed, finished up nice, closed, finished 3rd. I think without any mistakes, this one could get the job done in here. For 2nd, I went to the 7 Cherry Red. Ray Schnitker and Mark Mack team up again. For 3rd, the 2 Homecoming King, Dan Daly, trains and drives. And for 4th, I went to the 5 Mark of a Beast. Jason Bartlett picks up the drive for Andrew Byler. This one makes his first start lifetime. I think he might be all right. He's got a nice last quarter in a qualifier at Saratoga. I think he'll like the bigger track better. So in race 5, I went 4, 7, 2, 5.
This is my head scratcher race. I wasn't sure where to go, so I went by process of elimination, which sometimes you have to go backwards instead of forwards.
Right.
I eliminated 3 horses. I got it down to a field of 5 and ended up going with that hot trainer-driver combination of Mark McDonald and Ray Schnitker. I also looked to midway through the page on the program. This horse did trot in 2, 2, and 1 at Yonkers Raceway as a 2-year-old. So you'd think he comes back. They usually come back faster as 3-year-olds. Now we're on the 7/8 mile track in Vernon. Qualifier wasn't bad in a race where I really didn't know where to go. We'll go to the 7 Cherry Red on top. I also like the 4 Hall Press. I think you have to use the 2 Homecoming King, who I thought was actually going to be 1st or 2nd last start and actually made a right-hand turn. Something you see every once in a while from young trotters. And I think you also have to use the horse you mentioned, Paulie, the 5 Mark of a Beast. So I like the 7 on top over the 2, 4, 5. Mike?
I like the 4 on top, Scotty Z for George Ducharme. Nice 29-2 last quarter, last start. For 2nd, I did go to the 7 Hot Combo, Mark Mack, Ray Schnitker, Cherry Red. For 3rd, I went to Homecoming King, Dan Daly. Just like Joe said, made a right-hand turn. I think he'll correct that this week. And to round out the Super, I used the 1 Auto Loader, hobbles off this week. I think that'll help the horse.
Moving on to race 6. This is the first leg of the pick 4, exacta trifecta wagering. This is a Sire Stakes event. These are the big boys. They go for $59,000. I went to the entry, the Aki Svanstedt and Andy Miller combination here. The 1 3rd shift is actually my top choice. This one qualified absolutely giant at the Meadowlands. 27-2, 155. I really like this horse. I think he's super fast. He likes the big track better than the half. For 2nd, I went to the 8 Bluffiner. Tron Sledgehammer trains and drives a 154-1 winner in his first start of the year at the Meadowlands. That's huge. I think this one has a very nice year ahead of him. And for 3rd, I went to the 6 Sky Castles. Andy Harris, Jason Bartlett off a nice qualifier. I think this one will be tough also. In race 6, I went 186, 3rd shift as my top choice.
Good pick, Paulie. $59,000 up for grabs. 3rd shift. Many of you Western New Yorkers saw this guy win the $225,000 New York Sire Stake Final as we hosted the Night of Champions in 2019, winning in 156 flat. That's fast for a 2-year-old trotter on a half-mile track. Then we also have the 8 Bluffiner, Wanda Policini's Purple Haze Stable, who sponsors the Winner's Circle right here at Batavia Downs. Tron Sledgehammer, you always have to respect. I did watch this horse's race on the 12th, was absolutely in hand. 27-3, 54-1. The only problem here is post position. I was hoping he'd draw a little bit closer to the inside. So I did give the circle to the 1 3rd shift as the horse I like out of the entry big time. I think you have to use the 8 Bluffiner. 2 other horses, actually 3 other horses I'm going to use in my pick 4 wager because I think you get value if you could get the 1 beat. I think you use the 2 ball caps and blue jeans off a nice mile last week, going from trainer John Bootenchain to Mark McDonald. Mark, we heard his name a lot today. He could have a big day at Vernon. I think you have to use the 5 Bourbon Express, qualified great. The only question mark is he was scratch sick. And the 6 Sky Castles going with Lasix and Jason Bartlett. So I like the 1 and 8 more, and then underneath I think you use the 2, 5, and 6. Mike?
I went to the 1 on top too, 3rd shift off of that qualifier. 27 and 2, 155 flat. I think that horse is going to be a big time horse this year in the Sire Stakes. For second, I did go to Sir Cromwell, Scotty Z for Ed Hart. Hobbles on last week, trotted a nice mile last quarter, 27-4, 55 and 3. So second time hobbles this week. I think it's going to help out this horse huge. And to round out trifecta, I did use the 8 Bluffner Tron Sledgehammer, huge mile last week.
Moving on to race 7, it's a pick 3 Exacta Tri and Super. It's an Excelsior B event. I went to the 4 Crazy for CJ on top. Claude Huckable in the 3rd, trains and drives. He's been raced this horse very easy his first 2 starts. Got him tightened up good. I think he'll be ready today to go a big trip. He's my top choice. For second, I went to the 7 Rocky Point. Andy Miller picks up the drive. I love the driver change here to Andy. This horse raced really good in his first start of the year. For third, I went to the 3 Party Boy Hanover. Again, it's the George Ducharme Scott Zeron combo. You can't leave them out. And for fourth, I went to the 6 Ebenezer's Justice for the Dan Daly barn. So in race 7, I went 4, 7, 3, 6 with Crazy for CJ getting my circle.
Did you steal my notes or did I steal yours?
I think he stole mine too.
Did he? You know, the horse obviously that to look at first is the 4 Crazy for CJ. Good luck today to my good friend Rob Kuzmano, who owns part of the Chasing Dream stable. Hope you do well today. $19,000 last year as a 2-year-old. Turns 3, and his first couple starts have been pretty good, I think. If you're looking for value in the race alone, I think you go to the 3 Party Boy Hanover. Scotty Z again takes over for trainer George Ducharme, 27 and 4 last quarter. I expect this 3-year-old credit winner to be much better today. Also, I think you use the 7 Rocky Point. Andy Miller, the Orange Crush, drives today. The thing I like about this horse, well, there's a few things I like. I like his start last week, but I also like the fact that this horse trotted and won last year at Saratoga in 158. So I'm going to go 4, 3, 7 in this race. Mike, who you got?
I'm with you. I went 4, 3, 7 also. Crazy for CJ on top. Great year last year. I think this horse is going to come into his own this year. Right back to where he was. A lot of winners. You can see he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row last year, it looks like. For second, I went to the 3 Party Boy Hanover. 27 and 4 last quarter in his last start. Scotty Z in the bike. And for third, I went to the 7 Rocky Point. Andy Miller getting the drive this week. And also got to use the 6 Ebenezer's Justice, Dan Daly.
Moving on to race 9, it's Exacta Trifecta wagering. This is also a New York Sire Stake event, $59,000 on the line. Guys, this 1-1A combo looks almost impossible to beat. 1 Barnholden, 1A Chaptiama. Steve Pratt trains the 1. Tron Smedshammer trains the 1A. Purple Haze has ownership in both. That's why they're an entry. So I think if they were uncoupled, they'd be the best 2 horses in the race. Now you get them together. Almost impossible to go against. Definitely my top choice here. Barnholden, easy winner, 154 and 1 with Claude Huckabone Jr. last week. Gets the Orange Crush tonight. Huge difference. For second, I went to the 2 Berkeley J. Again, George Ducharme and Scott Zeron. This horse was off a very nice qualifier last week. Came home in 27 and 3. He can fly. He just made he made some breaks as a 2-year-old. Hopefully he matured a little bit in the offseason, comes back ready to go. For third, I went to the 7 Beer 30K.
It's always Beer 30 around here.
It's always Beer 30 around here. Tyler Buter drives for John Berger. This one qualified also really good at Poconos. Puts on the hobbles for his 3-year-old season. I think it might help him. I like 1, 2, 7 with the 1 entry being almost impossible to beat. Joe, what do you think?
Well, first of all, $58,000 on the line, and you know, when I see a favorite like this, I usually try to get the chalk beat. And sometimes you just have to swallow your pride and realize that it's probably not going to happen. There's one horse that I think could beat the entry. But before we talk about that horse, let's talk about Barn Holden, locally owned here in Western New York. Steve Pratt, Purple Haze Stable, Out in the Country Stable, the Bazinskis. We wish them good luck today. Also Purple Haze Stable, who owns part of the 1 and the 1A. The bet here, I think, is you bet the 1 horse to place. Hope that the 1 and 1A finish 1-2, and you might get a little more value on the place than you do on the win.
Yeah.
Andy Miller drives the 1. Claude Hucklebone Jr. did a great job, as did Jim Taggart, but now you're talking about Andy Miller. The other thing, ladies and gentlemen, is I love the fact that this horse, although they're the 1-1A, they have post positions 4 and 5. Right in the middle of the track, which is what you want at Vernon Downs. I think they get away 1-2 and go around the track that way. The only horse that can beat them is inside of them, and that's Mercury J, Scott Giron for George Ducharme. Paulie said it right. Now, I love this horse's qualifier. Came a back half in 58 seconds and was absolutely on cruise control of Vernon for Howard Parker. Picks up Scott Giron. Maybe bet a 1-2 exacta and then box the 1-2 a little bit if you want to play exotics in here. But I think it's all on top of the page in this Sire Stake event. Mike?
Obviously, I went to the 1 Barn Holden, getting Andy Miller back in the bike. Great year last year. Just winning 54-1 at Vernon. I think that horse will be ready to go like he always is. For second, I actually did go to the 6, Jason Bartlett for Jim Campbell. Nice qualifier here, just got beat a length, 27-3, 155-3. Second time Lasix on this horse. I went to Hobbs for second.
Good name.
Roy Hobbs.
Yep.
For third, I also went to Mercury J. I agree with you guys. Qualified, hobbles off, great qualifier. No hobbles again. I think that's going to help the horse here.
Okay, we move on to race 14. It's an Excelsior A, the last Sire Stakes event of the day. I went to the 2 Moonlight Millie, Jen Sansone trains, Fern Paquette in the bike. This one's off a really nice qualifier at Vernon. Easiest kind of winner. For second, I went to the 5 Book 7. Again, good qualifier. Julie Miller, Andy Miller. Really good combination. This one will definitely be the main danger. For third, I went to the 3 Grassetto Az. Jason Bartlett drives for Annette Lorenzen. This one ships in from Ohio. I think she'll be awful tough also. So in race 14, I went 2-5-3 Moonlight Millie, mild upset.
Okay. I went to the 5 Book 7. Crawford Farms owns this colt. Chapter 7, Julie Miller, Andy Miller, who could have a great day. I like the back-to-back qualifiers to tighten this one up. They thought enough of this colt to put him in the Valley Victory as a 2-year-old. Was 5 for 11 and made 77,000, which definitely bests this field. Has early gate speed. I think the 5 Book 7 is the one to beat. I went with another upset for second. I like the 4 Bronze Yankee a little bit. Mark McDonald, there he is again. Blake McIntosh trains. This horse did trot well, going off at 32-1 at the Meadowlands back on the 12th. Had the rail, only got beat 3 3/4 lengths, and look who beat him, Bluffiner, who we like a little bit today and earlier on the card. Has post 4, one of the best posts to have at Vernon Downs. For third, the 2 Moonlight Mile. 5-4-2 for me in this Excelsior A, Mike.
I went to the 5 Book 7 along with you, Joe. 2 nice qualifiers to tighten this horse up. Andy Miller for Julie Miller. Horse had a monstrous year last year. For second, I went with a mild upset. Dan Daly off the rail, Lucky Sevens. First time Lasix. Nice qualifier last week in 2 minutes. And for third, I went to Bronze Yankee, Mark Mack for Blake McIntosh. Nice little tightener at Meadowlands.
All right, Joe, before we let you go, last year you mentioned it, Night of Champions, Batavia Downs. What was that like for you to be able to call all them races?
Definitely the highlight of my announcing career. It was just great to see all those champions on the racetrack and work with a solid crew that our track general manager Todd Height brought in that day, and it was nice to have Kelly Young in town all night, and it was a spectacular night, one I'll never forget. Hopefully in a few years we'll get those Night of Champions back. because from what I've heard from everybody enjoyed themselves. They had a good time, and it was a great night.
I know I had a great time that night.
I know I did
It
too.
was great to be on the patio at Batavia Downs watching all them great races. I thought you called an outstanding night of racing. I'm a little biased, but you know I thought you did a great job that night. The races were great. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Anytime.
Join us at the stretchdrive.blogspot.com. We're also on Twitter at Stretch Driving. Don't forget Zambistros, proud sponsor of the Stretch Drive. they're in Main Street in Medina. Check them out. Great people, great service, great food. Stretch Drive. We'll be back Friday. Thank you.